Hey everybody, welcome back. Let's look at some more advanced UVing inside Maya. All right, I got Maya booted up here. I'm just going to use a sphere, and I'm going to make sure that create polygon primitives interactive creation is on, and I'm going to turn grid snaps on just to snap this in the center. All right, so if I'm done modeling, I'm just going to do edit, delete by type history, and modify freeze transforms. And let's dive into the UV editing workspace. So this is the default unwrap for this sphere inside Maya. So we can turn the checkers on and see what that looks like, and it doesn't look so great. So you can see, especially up here, when we get into all these triangles, okay? You can see all those triangles there. We get the pizza pie, which this doesn't look very good. So we can do a better job than this. Now, the other thing that I want to show you is a new an advanced feature inside Maya, and it's the UV distortion. So this identifies areas that are stretched, and those would be colored red, or compressed by color blue. So basically red or blue. So red would be stretched, blue is compressed. And we know that that's true basically, because if we look at the top of that where the pizza pie is, all those UVs are kind of really compressed in there. And then there is some stretching going on in the middle here. If we see this white, that means it's probably pretty good. So this white area here, go ahead and select those right here. These are looked at as a little bit better. Okay, so the red, not so great, stretching, and you can definitely see it. And then the blue is that compressed. So let's see if we can do a better job at this. The one thing we do want to make sure that's turned on, that we want to make sure it's turned on under settings and preferences, plugin manager. Go to unfold, and you want to make sure that the unfold 3D plugin is on. You do not want to use legacy method inside of Maya ever. Okay, let's chop this up. I'm just going to leave the checkers on for now, which is fine. Okay, what we want to do next is sew these seams together. So this is kind of a shortcut way to work with the default unwrap and then just sew these together. So we can actually just go to vertex, select all the vertices, and just click sew. So that's a pretty interesting way to start off with the default shell. Okay. The other method would be maybe to just create some kind of default projection based off of that. So we can start with this one, and you can see, again, we have the UV distortion turned on. So the stretched is going to be red and the compressed is going to be blue. So you can see definitely compressed here and stretched out heavily in blue. Anything in white is getting close. Okay. All right. So let's do some unfolding with this. So let's go ahead and select some of these edges. I'm going to select these two edges. I'm just going to cut those two edges. And right away, you can see now I have 3 UV shells. And as I move these around in the UV tiles, you can see it actually activates other UV tiles. Now, usually we just want to stick with one UV tile for this. And that's the U1V1 1001. So the default UV tile, that's where we want to stay in our workspace. Now, later on, if we get more complex objects and we want to use more than one UV tile, we can do that. We just can't stretch them across multiple tiles like this. So they all have to fit in a tile independent from this edge. They cannot cross the edge there, and any of the edges really. So I can't really do anything like that. That will not work. So each UV tile, I could do something like this. There are applications that will paint across multiple UV tiles. Mari is the higher end one. Substance Painter will also do that now as well. So those two will let you paint across multiple UV tiles. But for now, let's just stick with one UV tile and everything to fit within this tile. Okay, so now that we went and made sure that we have Unfold 3D on, so now we can actually start to unfold some of these. So let's look at this. So let's just go to Unfold, and we can double check the settings. There we go. Unfold 3D is on. We want that. And let's just click Unfold. And we get a pretty nice result. And you can see pretty much right off the bat, as I move this around, it's pretty darn close. So it's almost pure white. There's a little bit on the edge that's maybe stretched, but I think that's fine for now. Let's go ahead and unfold the other portion. So now we have these two. They both look pretty decent. Now we have this middle portion. Well, if we don't add any other seams to that, if we just click Unfold, we get a better result than we had, but still not a good result. We need a seam. We need to cut this and then unfold it. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's just go to Edge. We'll just select this center edge. Let's just go to Cut. So we'll go ahead and cut that, and then we can unfold this. We can go to UV shell, select that shell, make sure we have a cut in it, and then just go unfold. Now I kind of have a mess going on here. Everything's kind of everywhere, so I can just select all of these and scale them down together. And then they just need to fit within that one UV tile. So they can only fit within that one UV tile. You'll notice I can scale these, and I can rotate these to kind of line them up. And the maximum size that this one could actually be for this one tile, remember we want that to fit within one tile, is, I don't know, right about here. You can also do, if you go back down and select all these shells, under Arrange and Layout, you can just do Layout, and that'll kind of give you a guesstimation. And then if you want to double check the textile density for these, I'm not sure why that doesn't, there we go. Let's check Transform. Let's do Get, we're at 23, 24, and 24. So these two are basically the same. So let's just set all of these to 24. And then we'll just scale them down just a bit so they all fit. So we're pretty much good to go with this. So you can see this one is a little bit larger than this one because I think this cap up here, I cut in an extra segment down here. So there's an extra loop here that is not up there. So that's why this looks a little bit different, because my calculation was off just by a bit. If I wanted to try and fix that, I could. I could just move this edge. I could just cut back into this edge. This isn't really mandatory, but let's cut this edge. Let's sew this edge. Okay, we got a big mess, so that's nice to know. And I really like to look at this UV distortion because it's easy to tell when you have a big mess, even though we can pretty clearly tell that we have a mess. But let's go ahead and unfold that again. And it is actually still sewn together because this edge right here is missing. So let's cut that in. Cut. Now let's go ahead and unfold that again. Now the other way that we can unfold, we have the unfold tool, which is really quite magical. So this unfold tool will kind of unfold this for us, but let's go ahead and click unfold first. And let's just rotate this. And now look how much better this looks. Okay, let's go grab those other shells and just get them out of the way temporarily. But let's check out this unfold tool that we have. So we have a couple different variations here. Or not variations, a couple different tools. We have the optimize tool, which basically click and it will continue to optimize that unfold. We can actually hit unfold as many times as we want. And then you have the optimize tool, which basically lets us kind of brush over this optimization. Now we do have straighten UVs, but in this instance, they're going to be too straight. Okay. So you can see we're getting some strange distortion here because they're a little too straight. I could go, and right now I'm on the optimize tool. So I could go back after I've straightened them and go with the optimize tool and kind of optimize that as best to my ability. And I can actually use the unfold tool as well. So you can see that's getting us a little bit better. And then I can just go unfold from there again. So this one's actually really, really close to where we would want it. Now, to me, that's good. That's pretty darn good. I don't know that we could get it too much better. So the variation of this. So really, you're in kind of a battle here. So I have my little notes written here. So more seams equals less stretching. Less seams equal more stretching. So the more seams that you have, that you add, for example, you're going to get better UV layouts because they're going to be flatter. Okay, so the more cuts that you have. So for example, let's look at this one up here. So there's still some distortion on this. It's very hard to tell, but right around the bottom edge there is some distortion. If we wanted this to get even flatter, we could go into edge. Let's just select this edge loop and cut it. And let's just select this edge and cut. So let's see what this gives us. UV shell. Let's go ahead and unfold this. Well, that's almost perfect. If you look at these checkers now, they are almost perfect. That's as good as it gets. It doesn't get better than that. And remember, we don't want UVs to overlap, so we can move that out, or we could just kind of arrange those manually as needed. I have grid snaps on. Let me turn those off. So I can just probably eyeball it, I bet, maybe. Yeah. Okay, so that's probably as good as it gets, but you're sacrificing more seams. So you can see that's really up to you. This little blue line right here is up at the top here. So there's only so much, it can only get so good. So the more seams that you have, the less stretching, and then the less seams, more stretching. So that's my little, I got a little post-it, and that's my post-it right there. It's like, which one do you want to work with? And that's completely up to you. So this is some more advanced tools within Maya, some more advanced UVing in Maya as well. Some other things that we can do are unfold along, U and V. Okay, but you can see in this instance, that's not really helping us. So I can actually continue to click unfold, and it will just keep unfolding, which is kind of wild. And then I can click optimize, and I'm actually it's getting better. I mean, really, it's still pretty much the same shape that it was. Okay, so it's pretty much going to stay like this around here. Okay, I mean, that's pretty darn close. You can see the checkers are really, really, really close. If you want to restart with that piece, you can just do a planar projection and then just unfold it again. And that's kind of like a restart. So if you're working with this a little bit too much and you're like, I think I did too many things, you can just restart it, cut it again, go back to UV shell, and just do unfold again. And this is kind of that starting point. This is that starting piece that we started with in the beginning. So I can just kind of eyeball that up. That's pretty good. And then scale this down to fit. And you can see that's still really, really, really close. If we wanted to, if you wanted this to be perfect, what you would have to do is really start to chop it up. So let's look at that example. If I cut this, I mean, this will be, so here's the sacrifice for either, more cuts. And the more cuts that you have, that's harder to texture then. So the more cuts that you have, that's going to be harder to texture. So let's go ahead and unfold those. They're perfect, right? They look exactly the way that you would expect. Now they're overlapping, but now we have all these other pieces. So really, to get this to be, even better, you'd really have to cut it up. Oops. Oh yeah, there you go. Cut that up. Then it's perfect. It's perfectly flat. But now you have all of these seams to deal with. That's not even, you can't really do that. At least I don't think you can. No, that's not a good idea. It's just too much to work with. But that's the battle. And really, it's up to you at this point to figure out, okay, what is an acceptable tolerance of stretching and distortion? And that's why this UV distortion kind of lets you know. So what is acceptable within whatever you're trying to do for the object? Is anyone ever going to be that close to the object to even see that small distortion amount? Right? Could we see that small distortion amount with the checkers on or off? You can see the distortion. I think it does help with those checkers on. You can definitely see it in some places. And then these ones are much better. But then I have all these cuts to deal with, all these seams to deal with through the whole process when I get into that UV, painting those UVs. Okay, so painting on all those shells. So that's up to you how you want to break that down. I think that helps, hopefully, but I would start to use those tools a little bit more. So that optimize tool, yeah, it's basically what it's doing. It's untangling and relaxing space. I don't know what settings we have in here. Yeah, we just really have brush size and strength. So if you want that to be a little bit stronger, and this will work with your drawing tablet. You can see that can be a little stronger now. So this is almost like reshaping that other piece. And another cool thing that you can do, for example, if you wanted to attach these and kind of clean this up. So let's say this, let's ignore that portion for now. So let's go into Edge. And actually we can do this a different way before we get into that. Let's just try it this way first. Sorry. Let's go into Edge. And you can see it selected the corresponding edge on the other portion. And you can see stitched together. It's basically going to move it to where it should be within the position as if it was attached originally, which is actually pretty neat. So we could really clean this up if we wanted to. For example, we could go in and do, I don't know that we can do that whole edge. Let's just try these two, stitch together. It's going to be kind of funky. Let's do this one, stitch together. Whoops, stitch, not so, sorry, you need to click stitch together. And the default is A to B. And then let's sew these ones together. Let's just get rid of this again. So let's just select this whole inner portion here. Actually, I'm going to do an edge. I'm going to sew this edge together. And I'm going to sew this inner edge together. just to get back to that default. And then I'll just do another unfold. And then let's just pop this one over to the other portion, stitch together. So now I have kind of this funky shape, but that's up to you. This is where you get to have more freedom. You get more flexibility. Now it's one big shape, which, you know, could be bad, could be good. It does make it easier to move and manipulate. It's just one shell now. If I do layout, it fits in, you know, pretty much perfect. It's pretty, whoops, not that. Don't do uniform, non-uniform scale. Fits in pretty perfect. I just scaled that down just a little bit further. We can see it is very limited on distortion. You can see the portions that do have heavy distortion at this portion. So remember, for our distortion, red is stretched, blue is compressed. So you can see we actually have a little bit of red in here for some compression and a little bit of blue on the outsides for, the red for stretching and a little bit of blue on this outside edge here for that compression. So, I mean, really, this is where it gets, you know, it's up to you at this stage where you want to continue on, kind of playing around and making it your own, essentially. And that's kind of the goal here. So if I do optimize, this actually gets a little better. And I can optimize tool this if I want. But I mean, I don't know that I would usually do something like this. That's kind of awkward. But if I needed, say, for example, this portion, these faces here were super important to whatever the object was, and those needed to be flat. The rest of it, I didn't really matter. Like the center portion didn't matter as much. This needed to be completely flat. Well, this is a way that you could actually do that and keep it, you know, keep it flat. And if you look at the checkers, they actually look pretty good throughout. Now we do have a lot of seams here, but you know, what are you going to do? You have to have seams somewhere, because remember, it's always that battle. The more seams that you have, the harder it is later. But the less stretching that you're going to have, the less seams that you have, the more stretching that you're going to have, but the easier it is going to be later when you actually texture this object. So those are just more advanced features inside of the UV editor. So with these new set of tools, hopefully you can use this to make your UV editing and workflow much easier. All right, I'll see you next time.